Welcome everyone to Tuesday night community Kooinda conversation or connection, and this is where My Self-Reliance meets every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. and we always have a special guest on talking about all different topics of My Self-Reliance. So this is your first time here, welcome. It's lovely to have you here, and if you're watching the recording, thank you for doing that. I do have a few announcements before we hand over to our wonderful guest tonight, Adam Gibson from Parents with Questions. Lovely to have you here, Adam.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome. So we do have some amazing events coming up with My Self-Reliance. We have kicking off our DIY motor mechanics course. We're actually going tomorrow to have the first installment of that program, and I do have spots for 2 more people if you want to jump into the course. It will be when it launches on the 18th of March. It's going to be $250 per course, which goes for 6 hours, includes lunch, and you're going to learn everything that you need to know to do a first level repair on your car or service, or even be able to have the language to talk to the mechanic at your service and make sure that you're not getting ripped off. How good's that? So there are 3 levels to his course, and if you take on all 3, you do get a discount on purchasing all 3 of the sessions. Then we have, for any friends who are in WA, we've got our bush survival coming up on Saturday, and that's an awesome course with Jared Jose Santana. The 11th of March, we're having our fruit canning class. Now, tomorrow it will be up on the website so that you can register as 12 spots available for fruit canning. And that'll be lots of fun. So 18th of March is the first mechanics DIY course. And then we have on the 29th of April, our My Self-Reliance Expo, which is on an awesome property in Prospect in Sydney. So we want everyone who has a business or service that they'd like to share, jump on and all come to our expo, which would be awesome. So I want to introduce our guest speaker tonight, Adam Gibson from Parents with Questions, who has set up the family farms. And we first met Adam last July when we ran our Self-Reliance Summit. And we got to see what Adam was setting up with the family farm on the Northern Rivers. And so now it's time to catch up with Adam, as he's not only launched that first farm in Kyogle, and if you've got to see the promo, you might have got to see the videos that he's been sharing about that, the launch of his farm. But also he's getting ready to open up 2 more farms, one near Sydney and another one on Sunshine Coast. And so we want to catch up with you, Adam, and find out where you're up to, how that journey's come along. I'm really impressed with what you've been able to achieve in less than a year. So first of all, for anyone who hasn't met you before or know much about the family farms, tell us about, you've set up the family farm in Kyogle. Launching that, what was that like?
Slow and frustrating. It was a really simple concept in so many ways, to say, let's just get a group of people together and buy a farm and put a farmer in there and pay the farmer to grow food, and we buy food off him at wholesale. You know, pretty straightforward. But then every bit of the Australian legal and financial and accounting and ASIC and all the red tape is just extensive in order to stop any kind of progress on that level. So there was times when, look, the easy part, crazily, was getting a whole group of like-minded people together, because we had an audience with Parents with Questions, and similar to what you guys are doing here, it's this sense of, let's go become self-reliant. Let's become uncoercible because we've got food, shelter, community, that kind of thing. So the concept was simple. We just said, well, if we could do this, who's in? And 120 odd people put their hand up and did it, and all committed, significant money to it. Let's go do it. That was the bit, was getting people committed. And we had 120 people put their hand up, said, yep, let's put a deposit down and be ready to go. The easy bit was getting everyone together. And we went, wow, everyone's keen. And now we've got let's go solve on how we'll do it. And so the red tape became the issue. And it was like doing it in a manner that allowed us not to go to, not put me in jail or lose my house as a result of just the red tape. The good news is in that time, it's crazy to think that's July, because if apart from the red tape part, it would have taken a month, we would have had the farm straight away. As it is, we've now figured out all the loopholes and been through every dead end and every sort of possible scenario that could have tripped us up and did. And we've got it figured out. So now we've got our first beautiful farm on Mount Lion at Kyogle. And if you've seen the video, I'm happy to play it here again if you want, because I love it. It's only 4 minutes, but the video, the epic launching weekend we did, got everyone together for it. Lindsay was there for it, and maybe a couple others. It was just the most magical time. And look, the place itself is just remarkably beautiful. It's in its own valley and it's got crystal clear water running through it straight off the national park. Beautiful farmland, rich soil, mountains all around. We've got Mount Lion's our own mountain. It's epic. But it's also the concept of getting together and saying, this is ours together. It's not Adam's farm. There's 120 families own it together. And there's a sense of no one lives there except the farmer, but it's ours to stay and connect. And what we realized that people came from Adelaide, Northern Territory, heaps of people from Melbourne and Sydney. They're all coming to Kyogle to invest in a farm. And the reason they were there wasn't just for food security, because that was the promise of it. Let's make sure we're sort of resilient in terms of food. The real reason they're there is to be around like minds and feel part of something and feel safe and met. And there's a sense that something really great is happening around it. So that's the long answer, but it's been a great journey, and not without its challenges. But we do recognize that, I think I've been in this game a little while now in terms of the health system, and I believe every kid in Australia, around the world, really deserves a plate of fresh or healthy organic food on their table 3 times a day, not this toxic rubbish they get fed up at the moment. And, if you look at our food system, it's well and truly broken when you really dive into it. And I won't give you the long version of that, but there's a lot of significant problems with the way we eat and the way our food is presented to us as normal. And we've got a health crisis to go with it. And it's got nothing to do with COVID. It's got everything to do with obesity and diabetes and cancer and all the other things, which now kids are suffering from. Little kids, and now sort of 50% of them have chronic diseases before they're teenagers. So we have a health crisis which can be solved through a good food system. So that's where this was born, was that. And it just so happened we had a whole bunch of people saying, I've got some money and I want to do something about it. Let's go do it. So we feel very motivated to not just buy more farms, but bring people together and give them a chance to, I guess, eat well, but also live well in a place where they're around like-minded people of a higher consciousness than the average Joe. We want to be around people that lift us up and make us, meet us where we're at and actually challenge us to be our best version of ourselves. And that's always not going to be the case every interaction, but that's the culture of how this has come together. And on top of that, we want to get ourselves and our kids off technology and out into the country and actually doing something bloody useful, like, fixing a car, fixing a tractor, fixing a fence, growing some food, look after an animal, have a swim in the river, and not rely on YouTube to tell us how to do it. So there's lots of factors to it, but it's been a fun ride so far.
So thank you, Adam. I'm glad I'm working with you tonight, because I got bumped off just then, but I'm back again now. And so I did want to ask you, so now you've overcome some of the hurdles that you had in the beginning. And I don't know if you shared about those hurdles, because you lost me for a minute there.
You missed the good bit, Kelly.
And yeah, I'm sure I'll have to go watch the replay at the and so, you know, thank goodness you're used to talking to audiences and could carry on without me. So where are you at in the process of purchasing the next farm?
Well, we put a contract on the Sunshine Coast on Monday afternoon at 5 o'clock. So if I'm happy to show you a picture of it online. Am I allowed to share a screen and show you what it looks like? Show you this. This is out at the Mary River Valley, a place called Cambroon. All right, so this is Balloomba Creek, 333 Balloomba Creek Road, which someone pointed out yesterday to us is the angel number, or it's a Christ consciousness number or something like that in numerology, which is cool. Got a creek running all around it. It's actually set up for horses. It's 133 acres. There's that 3-3 again. This is a national park all around it. So it's surrounded by this beautiful Conondale National Park. What's remarkable about this property's got about 2 k's of river frontage as the boundary. And this water is the most magically blue water you've ever seen. If you look it up on Google, there's better photos of it, but it's got this cobalt blue and it's just crystal clear. It's beautiful. So it's one of the big criteria we've realized is we want to go and stay on these places and feel great about being there. And that's, to be immersed in the beauty of nature is part of the healing, part of this level of feeling uncoercible and really healing from the last few years is being in beautiful water around beautiful people in a beautiful environment. How good is it? I mean, just to be inspired by the nature, by our environment. It's got these massive horse facilities with tack rooms and so on. It doesn't have irrigation on this farm and it's not as big as I would have liked, but we've got an option to work around that. This is a solar powered bore. We're going to put a lot more dams in because we need to use all this space down here. There's all the camping spaces down on this front, right along the creek. And the rest of this will become cropping and growing vegetables and market gardening. And all these hills behind, which is the majority of the property, will be the grazing. This will be growing protein. So, cows and pigs and sheep and things. And this is national park. So all the water that comes off here is pretty bloody good. This is the house, this nice big sprawling farmhouse, about 6 bedrooms. They always put pictures, it's pretty basic, but it's nice. It's clean and neat. There's the view from the veranda. And they've got this attached to the house, which is like a bunk house. It's got, I think, 6 of these little rooms plus a big crib or a big, so this is for farm workers and people want to come and stay and work on the place. Really great facility to have because that's, with the farm, buying something that hasn't got these things means you've got to spend money on a lot of stuff. And buying this one, it's almost complete. There's hardly any money to spend on it. It's got extra sheds, rooms for cool rooms, truck storage, stables, everything. So really beautiful spot. This is where this will go. But it's designed they breed endurance horses on this place. But you can see it's very, very beautiful. And we're really excited about it. So it's 103. This rents out now as a campground. I think they make about 60, 70,000 a year just renting it as campground. There's not even a toilet there at this moment. So it's kind of interesting, the opportunities that go with it. The key thing with these properties we're buying, because people are using their savings, but also their self-managed super and so on. So most people, haven't got heaps and heaps of spare cash. They can just put their super roll over into self-managed and invest in something like this. And there's a few reasons for doing that, which we can talk about, but it's important that this washes its own face to the extent that we don't want anyone having to top this up or put more money in the track. That is a possibility, but the whole model is based on this becomes financially stable and actually pays a return to our investors, our owners, of 3 to 5% within a year or two on an ongoing basis. So financially, it stacks up. You're not going to get rich by owning it, but the capital growth and the fact it won't cost you any more, and you've got some lifestyle benefit to go with it, and you can eat from it at wholesale. It's kind of the promise. It's not kind of the promise, it is the promise. So we grow enough food where everyone can buy food at wholesale as members or co-owners. We can camp here. as much as we want effectively, with some limitations, but effectively as much as you like. And the place is a working farm, and there's staff farming it. There's people actually farming it. It's not us going in there trying to learn how to grow vegetables next week. It's actually about having it professionally managed. So in essence, it's a managed real estate investment in its financial structure, in its social structure. It's obviously much more, and in its functionality in our lives. I think it has I don't know, there's a spiritual element to it, a social element to it, an emotional element to it, knowing we've got somewhere to land, knowing we've got people that get us. That's been a big driver for most of us. I can't remember what the question was. Anyway.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, it looks amazing and really exciting. There is New South Wales different in the regulations and stipulations that, legislation that it puts onto Queensland, or is it easier to buy in Queensland versus New South Wales? When I say buy, I mean having that structure.
There's different legalities around. They're in essence they're the same. They're mainly the red tape you come into is more to do with ASIC, which is Securities and Investment Corporation, whatever they call themselves. So it is federal stuff. So for the most part, it's all similar. Excuse me. So there's differences in how they do contracts and a few different things, but they're not hard to figure out. The main stuff to be aware of is if you get 20 people together and buy a property, no problem. Put in a company, you're all on the register and all the title holders, no big deal. If you get 21 people and you do it and you don't have sophisticated investors on, you can go to jail for a managed investment scheme fraud and all this other nonsense. So the regulation's really tight. And you've got to question why that's there, to protect us or to control us. I would argue the latter. But so there are things to be wary of, that's all. We're using a platform called Bricklet, which is anyone can go and use. You can go look that up yourself, called bricklet.com.au, which is designed, it's a hybrid solution to doing exactly what we are doing, which is we found fairly late in the game, to be honest. But that's something everyone can think about using if you want to do something similar in your own region.
Right, because I know you did run a Zoom where you shared the IP of how you got it up and going, and having that kind of knowing that to use that kind of a structure. Is that because of there's more than 21 people buying into this property? Right. Yeah. And so if it was a lower number, if it was like less than 10, then you might use a different structure. You
just register a company and you do it through a company. It'd be really straightforward. So, that's an option. I encourage anyone to look at doing this. If you can do something with 10 or 20 of you, great, go ahead. We published the IP and the how-to, and we'll continue doing that. But we're not trying to protect the model. It's like everyone can do this. Look, there's a lot when you have a lot of people and it's a big purchase, and the tricky bit is making it financially viable, not just a block of dirt that grows weeds because no one looks after it. That's the key thing. Like we are buying a commercial farm and we're selecting farmers for it who've got experience and so on. But I'd love everyone to eat from this, and we make Woolies and Coles, irrelevant because we don't need them anymore. That would be great, I think. Because the other thing about this, I should say, I get excited. I get excited. So if you drop off again, it won't matter, Kelly, right? Because I can talk all night about it. But no offense, but look, one thing I love about this, with all these sort of models, if someone's growing food for us, that if your farmer has a personal connection or relationship with the people he or she is growing for, the energy that's in that food is completely different to what you buy in the supermarket. And it's not just to do with food miles, and it's not just to do with whether they use chemicals or not. It's actually, I believe that, if you look at, that Matsumoto, or what's his name, the Japanese guy who looked at the water crystals, You know, when you direct love at water
Yeah.
and then you freeze the crystals, they turn into this beautiful thing. If you direct hate, they go ugly. And just, you know, the crystalline structure of cells shifts according to the emotion that's put into it. And in this model, we are putting so much good energy into that food that it makes me excited to see what comes out of it, and into the soil and into the farm. So there's this level of, you know, energetics that I think is yet to sort of really reveal itself. It'll play out and we'll start to feel the difference, I think.
Now, you said the model is not for people to come on and start farming themselves. So, and you've got farmers who are all ready to go and to do this. What role are the actual people, you know, buying into it play?
Well, everyone has to shave their head. We've got these nice orange robes doing these special kind of coffee ceremonies. Yeah. Look, it's really straightforward. The reason we joke it's a cult, because every time we go to an inspection and we bring like 50 or 100 people, the real estate agent goes, what's going on? What are these people? They think we're a cult. So anyway, we're obviously not. But so the role of the co-owners is to there's a committee, and have say in how things go in terms of, you know, they want to review the books. I say I'm a co-owner as well. We want to review the books every quarter. If there's a return, we want to share in that in terms of financial return. We want to make sure that the camping facilities are well catered for, and, you know, we're spending the money according to the original promise of it. But otherwise, it's turn up. We do a working bee once a month at Kyogle. We just did our first one on the weekend gone. So the opportunity to go and get your hands dirty is there, but it's not, the financials and the model of the farm isn't relying on it. So it's kind of not relying on volunteers to turn up, but the opportunity is there to go and get everyone involved. So on the weekend,
that's really important too, to have those working bees, because that's where the community are able to come together and meet, you know, have those once a month opportunities. I would say that would be, you know, the you know, exciting part for any co-owner to go, oh, let's all get together.
Exactly. Yeah. And they can come every weekend too, and, you know, organize their own get-togethers and come camping. It's set up for that.
Right. Someone's
asking, and the thing is it how do you eat from there if you're interstate? And the answer is you probably won't. People they invest in it because it's like, well, where else are you going to put your money? In the moment, they, like most people, they're saying to me, I'd rather put my super into this. At least I'll see some benefit from it and know I've got some real estate. If I leave it with the banker in my super, you know, they're just going to dwindle away. It might even be taken from me. It could disappear. Or it's probably invested with Big Pharma and whoever else, you know, like, so there's an ethical reason and a safety reason, arguably, that's what a lot of people are doing. That's why they're coming out of Adelaide and Sydney and so on.
Right. And so someone else asked, where do you get your farmers from?
It's a tricky one, like getting farmers who are aligned in terms of values. And, you know, we've interviewed farmers who tick. And then I said, well, if there's a mask mandate on in your state and there's a workshop on, what are you going to do? And they said, oh, we'll follow the health orders. I said, bye, see you later. Next, please. So, you know, they've got to be values aligned. They've got to have experience. They've got to be keen. You know, there's a lot of boxes they need to tick. So far, I've done a lot of coaching in the farming space. So I've actually been a business development coach for farmers who are looking for investment. So I've got a bit of a backlog of people I'm talking to all the time. And every time we run a webinar, we normally get a few more farmers put their hand up. So watch this space. It's tricky. We haven't really got the exact formula yet, but so far we've got enough people to make us to look good, you know, so we've got enough to fill the roles at this stage.
Yeah. So what have you learned from Kyogle that will be different about Hunter Valley or Sunshine Coast?
I think the key thing, yeah, really good question. There's a long list to that, and a lot of it's red tapey stuff, which we've figured out. We just haven't done it again. We just simplified how we do it. You know, like it's literally it'll be this settlement, this contract will take 60 days. The last one took 6 months, and it was pulling my hair out. You know, a lot of there's grey hairs because of it. So we've learned out what not to do and who not to work with. We've learned to negotiate a whole lot better in terms of dealing with agents, because they haven't been impressive for the most part. In terms of dealing with lawyers, we're much better at that. But I think the key thing, I realized that it was originally a food project, which it still is. It's about feeding ourselves good quality food. But as I sort of said already, it's actually about much more than that. It's about a new way of relating, a new way of communing and getting together and actually sticking, you know, creating cells of resilience. That's really what we're there for. Ultimately, it's walking in there and actually there's a sense of relief and hope. It's like, thank God I feel met by people.
Yeah,
you know, that's overwhelming. Everyone who says that to us, and it's beautiful, because they go, you know, a lot of people there just haven't had that support at all in the last 3 years, and they get here and go, I'm among friends.
And how do so someone else asked, the one that's near Sydney is in the Hunter Valley. That's where you found a spot, right? Did you show the pictures of the Hunter Valley one, or you're still looking for the people for that one?
I've got the people, and I've got the investors, or we've got the investors together, and the owners. We haven't got the farm. Now, what actually, I'll tell you the other thing we learned, right? With Kyogle, this is the juggling act. We said, well, but we found a great farm. Then we got to find the investors. Then we got to get the money from the investors through the right structure in order to put a deposit on the farm. Then we got to get the farmer on board. And it was like every plate was spinning at once. So what we've learned from that is, with the Hunter, we set a webinar last week and said, if you want to be in on the next one in the Hunter, we've got a farmer. Now, this guy it's a man and his family own a farm, and he's got a farm manager and some staff who run, it's called Ethical Farmers. You can look it up, really nice food boxes and meat, you know, ethical meat and so on from their farm. It's all regenerative. And we met them, they're fully on board, love what we're doing. I said, do you want to sell your farm to us and we'll do it all together? He said, no, but we'll buy another one together and we'll just use our team and double it up on next door's farm. So that's in Dungog, which is outside of Maitland, somewhere in the Hunter. I've been there, I can't remember exactly where it is. But that one, we're going to use those farmers to farm the next farm, which will be within 20 minutes, half an hour of that first farm. All right, using the same team, same cool rooms, same distributions, all set up. So that part's not taken care of. But we said to everyone, before we go out and start shopping, we need to know how much we want to shop for. So who's in? So now we're going to Sydney people. Anyone who's in Sydney region, you can put a deposit down, and we'll know we know now how much we've got we can go and spend roughly. So we can go shopping in a certain price range. And so we'll have something, I would envisage within a month, we'll have something in the Hunter ready to go. But it's got to be the right one. You know, we don't just buy anything. We've knocked a lot back. We kiss a lot of frogs, because there's no point buying it just to transact on it. And even the irony is, food production farms can be not very nice looking. You know, they're really practical and very bit ugly. And lifestyle farms can be completely unproductive. So having something that's got both on it is a delicate balance. So people go, oh, this is a nice farm. And I said, well, which part are you where do you grow, you know, crops on that? It's all hillside and jungle. So, you know, you got to have a balance of everything. So yeah,
that's what I've seen makes the difference, is that when you have a big buy-in, it gives you more choice as to what you buy, and, you know, getting something pretty versus getting something which is, if you maybe only had a few people pitching in, wouldn't create the amount of collateral you need to get the balance of both. Absolutely.
So we can buy a primo property, we can get what we want, not just settle for anything. And Kelly, we've also got, we raise extra. So we raise working capital to go with it. And now so for the Kyogle farms, I think we raised 6 million, or just shy of $6 million. The farm purchase on its own was total of 3.8. So the additional goes towards working capital to pay pay the farmers in the first year or so before they make any money. We buy extra tractors, we do fencing, all that stuff, which if you don't have that capital, farming is really hard without the capital. So we're buying some cushioning and some speed to market. And, we don't have to do it the hard way and save up for 20 years to buy the next tractor. That makes it a whole lot easier.
100%. We just had a permaculture course on the weekend on a beautiful property in a rimba, and they said before access is everything. So access to your property, they had to put $100,000 just into the road before they could even start on anything on the property.
Yeah.
So and luckily, and when you're looking after a lot of people, you need a lot of loos.
Well, we built one on the weekend. That was our working bee, just gone. So that's my weekend building compost dunny on the farm at Kyogle. It's really relaxing. But with a bunch of, it was good fun. We were all there doing it together. It was great, But you're right. It's like farming has a lot of. You look at a farm, it's a lovely looking property, and I've done this myself, looking for things for myself. And then you get there, and when you work it for a few years, you realize what's involved. And there's, without the right equipment, without the right fencing infrastructure, and you can spend, fencing is $20 a meter, and if you can find someone to do it at the moment. So that, if you haven't got a good fence on one side of the property, there's a couple $100,000. So things like that stack up. So I'm just saying this from the point of view of they're beginners' errors, if you like. I'm not saying we're experts, but they're easy things to get wrong if you're not careful. Yeah,
and now you call them farmers because that's how we would recognize them. But your guys I've talked to you before about this, about like permaculture backgrounds and, successional farming kind of concepts. So it's holistic and not just that a traditional agriculture, which
100%
is, tilling the earth, leaving nothing left in it for the next crop kind of a.
It's look, the broad term, it's not so much permaculture, although there's certainly permaculture principles, but it's more that permaculture is a principle that fits under the banner of regenerative agriculture. And regenerative agriculture is kind of a common term now, but it's the modern way of doing agriculture is extractive. It's like I'll buy something from the rural store, put it on there, buy some seed. It's all it's not accounting for nature, and it's not accounting for improvements in soil. It's normally just calories in, calories out kind of deal. It's a bit like big ag and big pharma have got everything in common, including who owns them. So it's exactly the same business model. Whereas regenerative agriculture is more like naturopathics, or, it's naturopathics combined with acupuncture and integrative medicine and nutritional medicine and all those things stacked into let's rebuild the system. So it's not an instant thing, and you can stop using all chemicals at once necessarily. There's a bit of a process, there's a transition, because we still need to be financially viable in the transition. But it's a good step forward. And this type of farming, we're even negotiating buying a couple of Clydesdales at the moment for Kyogle, for Mount Lion, because we want to have the resilience of knowing if diesel price goes up or we can't get tractor parts from the US, we're not going to starve, because we'll be able to plow the soil with something. So that's regenerative thinking as well.
So what will be your role in each of these farms once they get set up?
I call my role chief cat herder, because in terms of the process of getting them set up. But the original intention was we set the farm up, we put the farmer in place, put a committee in place, off you go, guys, we'll move to the next farm, and off we, that was the thought process. It's proven to be a lot more complicated than that. So we've been drawn into some of the management of the farms in the interim. So right now we're helping set up the food hub and the distribution systems for food. We're helping set up the infrastructure for the camping and for members, and organising toilets and sheds and things. I'm coaching the farmer on how to get, the right consultants on and getting him going, so he's really making money. I'm helping organise renovating the farmhouse, everything like this, and insurance, and there's so much to it I can't even tell you. So it's operations manager is being employed next in order to handle that stuff, because it's just, I'm good at the showy bits out front, and I can talk the leg off a donkey, but someone else needs to do the organizing, and it'll flow better. So it's been a stressful period, but it's been, completely worth every step, because it's just such the most fulfilling project I've ever touched, honestly. But yeah, it's now time. The management of it is quite a profound thing we've discovered. A lot of moving parts, a lot of people, a lot of expectations. And, we've got 566 acres of countryside to manage and food to produce. Yeah, lots happening.
Joe, I find your openness really refreshing, Adam, that, you're sharing all the not so good parts along with all the good parts. It's really, it's really awesome to see. And it's easy to think, a really romantic view of buying a farm and how lovely it's going to be. But everyone knows, well, who's done it before, there's a lot of really, get dirt under your fingernails approach to how this all comes about. So, so thanks for sharing that with us. It's really great.
Yeah, it's important everyone realizes it too, because it is easy to think, oh, we just do this. I'm like, and I encourage it, but it's like, just realize there's more to it than meets the eye. It's
Now, someone has a question about the investment, and before you say about the investment, it's really interesting. The price point where you've put the investment is, I feel like it's quite achievable. And what makes this really work is because it's, more achievable than trying to go in it with 5 or 6 people to do the same thing. But if you had the money for 5 or 6 people to do the same thing, then that might be the way to go. So tell us about what the investment that is for someone to jump in or you might not do another kind of a presentation. Up to you.
No, that's quite okay. No, look, it's 55K now. It was at 50 and it's now 55. And that gives you one share in the property. So far, Kyogle, Mount Lion has got 140 shares. So it buys you 1 share of Mount Lion. And those shares will go together to cover the working capital and the improvements and all the, infrastructure and all the things I talked about before. So it's a going concern. It's not just, but it is backed by the real estate. You're inherently buying a 1/40th share in the real estate, but it is actually a going concern as well. And as you said, I think it's a good number. I actually encourage anyone in Sydney, if you can afford to do more, we don't want to have 300 people in there. If we end up with a $10 million property and it goes way over in terms of numbers, we're still got to feed everyone. So that our cap is, we're capped by the number of people can realistically feed, or, confidently. That's a little bit, it's a gray area. No one knows the exact number, but we don't want to be overextending and overpromising. But if you're in Sydney and you can maybe take a couple of shares, we prefer it because that'll sort of bring our numbers down. But as you said, it's enough to sort of rule out anyone throwing $1,000 in and everyone's got an opinion. Like there's a level of sophistication to it. Let's call it that. But it's also not enough where it's going to keep you up at night and go. In fact, if it is going to keep you up at night, don't do it. Is my strong advice. Just do not put money in there if it's really going to stress you out, because it's a long-term thing. It's a buy and hold. You can sell it. It is liquid. You can put it back through Bricklet, and as long as there's a buyer, someone else can come along and buy it for whatever the market rate is. That is likely. Well, right now for Mount Lion, for example, those who bought in 6 months ago can now relist it and sell it for 55,000. They make $5,000 on it if they want to. No one's done that, but you can. But yeah, it's enough to sort of, think, oh, well, I'm not going to miss that. And we've discovered that self-managed super, we work with a lady called Cass Smith in Canberra who has just unplugged the self-managed super myths and said, this is garbage, you can use it. Even if you haven't got hundreds of thousands in there, you can use just whatever's there. There's a cost to it, but it's generally worth it because you can get it out and put it into something you want to do like this. So the majority of people are using their super. And those that aren't go, well, they know where my money is and I can get it back out if I need it. And in the meantime, we get to go and enjoy something.
Yeah, that's awesome. So someone wants you to type the details of who you're talking about.
Freedom Financial Solutions. Her name's Cass Smith. Freedom Financial Solutions in Canberra.
And then we'll throw it open to questions in a moment. But is there any else that you want to share about the properties, or that you think is vital for people to know?
Look, vital. It's the intention is certainly to be moving all up and down the East Coast at least. Right? We've had interest from a lot of places. But if it's something like I would put the call out to everyone and say this: not everyone's got the skill to pull a farm together. But there's a whole lot of people out there, like people like yourself, Kelly, and anyone who's been a group organising. If you've organised anything in your community in the last 3 years, or stood out and sort of led any kind of a group, whether it be a mum's group or a food co-op or I don't know, whatever, support groups, anything like that, that's a list of people who can come together and do something similar. So the power of, the everyday person, I'm just some bloke in the garage in Northern Rivers, like I'm not, I wasn't doing anything special before this. We've all got the power to go out and do something along these lines. We've done the hard yards, put the model together. If you get a group of people together in your region, say, look, we really want to buy a farm. We've got 20, 30, 40, 50 people. Can we do a presentation and can we get something together? We can maybe come and do that for you, or we'll teach you how to do it yourself through the webinar. So, I just push back on everyone saying we've all got it in us to do these things. Because I've seen the most beautiful stories come out of the last 3 years where, just everyday people have stood up and become magnificent in their ability to, rise above things and find something in themselves. And that's the big lesson in the last 3 years. And I think if you've got a bit of a following or a bit of an audience or a group around you or whatever, get busy and get people together and make these things happen. That's what I like to see happen. I don't want to replace the family farm or PWQ or anything. I don't want to replace reliance on the government with reliance on us or on, I don't know, anyone else. It's that self-reliance. Just, there you go. We'll segue back to my self-reliance. But yeah, that's what
Brilliant.
It's about.
Thank you for that.
Emotionally and everything. Yeah.
Do you know, after I met you, I actually went skiing right after the summit last year. It was July and it was winter, and we'd booked in for this trip, and we went to this lodge. And what I didn't know at the time was this lodge that we booked into was a private ski lodge, and you could only get in there if you were part of this members group or a guest. And so we discovered that we were staying in this beautiful lodge, it was close to the resorts, and it was a very similar setup to what the family farms is that you could, back when it started, people got in for about $18,000 and you could buy into this ski lodge. And now if you wanted to do the same thing, that they had capped it. And so the only way to get into this ski lodge was to buy it off somebody who was selling. But if they were selling it, it wasn't $18,000 anymore. It was something like, $60,000, or I don't even know the number. But I went, wow, look how it really works. And this place had been running for 25 years or something like that. And so, there it is. It works. It's out there. It happens. There's this like-minded community. And I will tell you, they're mostly doctors and nurses of this community who bought into it in the beginning. But here we are, like-minded people buying into a family farm, and the joy that you can have with it for years and years and years to come. So it's the model works.
The one thing I should say too, Kelly, on that is that I recognise that not everyone's got a spare 50K lying around, right? And a lot of people had a lot of people lost a lot in the last few years. I know people who had great jobs now living in caravans, and like those sort of stories are commonplace now. Hopefully not for anyone here, but just without trying to be exclusive, really the vision for this thing is it's a secondary or an alternative healthier food system. That ultimately, and this is not a promise, this is just where we head, right? Is that once we've got a network of farms all up and down the East Coast or even all over Australia, or, hopefully this gets replicated everywhere. You can participate and be part of the community and by eating from the farm. You can shop at the food hub and be part of it there. So if you haven't got the money to buy in, you don't have to own it to eat from it, as long as we're productive and we've got enough food there. The priority does go to members, but we don't want to get to a point where we have to choose who gets fed and who doesn't. But that's why members are buying in. We're sort of the first cabs off the rank, if you like. But we do invite anyone who hasn't got the money to say, well, just help us get set up, and we'll, you can come and eat good, healthy food from the food hub, and we'll run events and community things, and we've got a horse riding camp coming up for our kids on this Easter in Kyogle, and we've got homeschooling concepts coming along, and wellness hubs and all sorts of stuff that involve everyone, particularly those who've come from the freedom movement. And what I do love about that is not just it's inclusive, but I spent a lot of time fighting what I didn't want to see happen, because I felt like I was in a war zone to protect our kids. And that can only go for so long. You can't fight a war every day of your life because you get tired. And what I discovered was, when the absence of war isn't peace, it's creativity. That's not my quote. I nicked it from somewhere. But it's coming out of the hassle and the chaos and the loss and everything, and going, okay, what is being born? What is being called forth here? What are we here to create? Now we've had this shit rubbed in our face, and we know how bad it actually is. And we know how corrupt it is, and how we don't, we were being part of this system comfortably until now, until it didn't work for us anymore. And suddenly we go, okay, now I'm waking up. What do we do different? And that's, I guess, what I'm excited about, is it becomes, let's go create the world we want. This and whatever all the projects are out there. That's the essence of the message for me. And it's not just us or this, it's whatever's happening. These community groups and people looking after each other, reconnecting, coming together in different friendship circles, and, deeper relationships and caring for each other. That's pretty good stuff to see happening. And it's been worth it in that regard. The war zone and the chaos has been worth it for me to see that happening, because we were missing it. And our kids, I've got 3 little kids, so yeah, I do. Yeah, I do a lot of this for them, just to say, this is the life I want for you. There you go. Do what you can with it, but just provide a bit of infrastructure for that. And that's ultimately what it's for.
I want to just remind people too that, it doesn't, whether you have the money and you want to do the family farm or you don't, it's just start growing food in your own backyard and your own windowsill, and start where you're at. And because even if you do buy into the family farm today, you're not going to be purchasing food from there tomorrow. So, but you got to start with the community where you're at, start reaching out, start being leaders in your own community, start growing food. We are responsible wherever we are with our lifestyle choices, and we'll always have choices, even if we feel like we're up against it and there is no more. No, we can, take those the choices back in and have control over our own little space. And so I will tell you that I probably won't be buying into your family farm, Adam, only because my dream and my family is to have our own farm. So that's our plan, and we're looking around, and we might be neighbors to you guys, but that's but that's what we all should do, right? If you can afford it, go get your own plot, and then you're right, someone said in the chat, it's like you know, we will own the farms where the farming's done right and without all the jabs for the cattle as well. And so
Absolutely.
that's, yeah, we can do the right thing by the property and for our country and for each other.
Joanne's asking, is there any spots in Kyogle? I've just sent you that in the chat there, Mandy's email address. If there is a spot, she'll let you know. There might be one or two, but I think they're all accounted for. You can check. Kelly, is it okay if I share the screen? I'll just show you the link and the terms.
Yeah, that's
because I know I don't go into the technical detail on this thing very much. It's because I spend too much time in it. I get a bit bored. But it's important to recognise some of this stuff. So the process. So we get a $5,000 deposit it's now called Family Farms Management, and that covers everything up front. So this is all the costs we incur in finding a farm. We've discovered, you asked me what we learned. It's a very expensive process if you haven't got the money. So, and this is how we get paid out of it. So this is not a charity thing anymore. We haven't been paid enough out of it, but this is now covering us to be viable and ongoing and have a operations manager and pay Mandy properly and pay myself and Brian properly. But then the balance, the 50K then goes into Bricklet, which is the platform. It's an independent platform, and you can research them and do that yourself. And then we'll pay the deposit out of the $5,000 deposit for everyone. If there's enough of our investors, we're going ahead on the Hunter. We've got about 115 people there, and there's room for more. We're not going ahead on Brisbane at this point. We had not enough interest there. We didn't get 60% up front, so we give everyone's money back, so don't worry about it. We'll try again later. We are going ahead on the Sunshine Coast. That's already happened. So there's still a couple of spots there, we think. I think there's a few more. We encourage multiple bricklets per owner, as I said. But then the terms on this is if we do this in a region near you and we can't find a farm within 6 months, we'll give you the money back. So in the Hunter, if we don't find the right farm, we just give you your money back and say, look, sorry, we couldn't find the right thing. If there's costs we do incur, and normally we do that within a month or two, but if there's a 20% potential loss of costs going into that, should we not find the right farm and it's taken all that time and effort. So you stand to lose $1,000 if it doesn't go ahead. And then, look, this is Brisbane. As I said, this stage isn't going ahead, but the Sunshine Coast is. And that's the Sydney farm. So that's Sunshine Coast, and this is the Hunter Valley farm. If you want to jump on there, you can reserve a spot if you like. And if you want to get in on Sunshine Coast, email Mandy at ask@Parents the Questions, and she might tell you if there's a spot or not. Hopefully that makes sense.
I suggest that if you're interested in knowing more and you want to see the entire presentation, that you jump on the email that ask@parentswithquestions.com.au and get yourself on the email list so that you know when Adam's doing his presentations, and you can jump on and get all your questions answered and know how to proceed.
Yeah, we've got I'm pretty sure we can send you a recording of the last one too, just to give you all the guff on where we're heading and what we're doing. But I've covered most of it tonight, so I'll give you the gist of everything. If you're on the Sunshine Coast and you've got a deposit down and you want to join us, a lot of people from Brisbane are just going straight to the Sunshine Coast because it's only an hour and a half, and it's beautiful up there, obviously. We're going to an inspection on the farm at Bullumba Creek this Saturday afternoon at 4:30. Where I'll be there to show everyone around the farm, and you can come and check it out. And if you like it, you have to have a deposit in to come to the inspection. But if you don't like it, you can say, I don't like it, take my money back. Or you can obviously stay in. I think everyone will be pretty happy when they see it. But
beautiful. Beautiful. Well, that's very exciting. Thank you everyone for jumping on tonight, and thanks Adam for sharing all the highs and lows of their adventures and you know where we're going with this. It's really very cool.
You got me on a funny day today, guys, because it's been like we've just signed a contract and I'm going between bookkeeping and lawyers and, you know, there's so much going on in my head. And then coming back and talking to real people like you guys and talking about why it's important has actually been refreshing, because I felt absolutely fried, you know, and you're dealing with all the heady stuff all day long and all that. And then come back and come in to talk to you guys about why it's important and why it means something has been it's a bit of a shot in the arm again. Thank you.
Bring you back to life and
out of the head, back to the heart. I think it is. Yeah.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, the questions have stopped rolling in, so we'll say thank you so much, everyone, for jumping on tonight, and we will look forward to having you all join us again next Tuesday. If you have heard of if you've heard of Lance from that's a really funny saying, but never mind, we'll carry on. The shot in the arm. If you heard of Lance from the Australian project, we will be speaking to him and finding out more about the Australian project next Tuesday, same time, same place, same Zoom link. So, all right, take care, everyone. Have a lovely week. See you next time.
Thanks all. Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks, Kelly.